Mark Weiss is the player today, and then hopeful Landon Turner, Keel Rashad, Justin Thompson will be here before 12:30, depending on some performance they have. All right.
All right, we're looking forward to another Coastal Division matchup against a good football team. So Miami's won their last 2 games, and they probably have a lot of confidence going into this game, and I'm sure they plan on coming in here and knocking us off.
Larry, with Mark Weiss, how do you think he's changed since that Delaware game when you sat him down and then had that long talk with him the next day?
Probably just become more focused than he was, and not to say that he wasn't focused at that time. I just think he's become more focused. I think it was just a lesson, something that you learn from, and I think he handled it very well and responded the right way, and because of it, I think he's a better quarterback today.
Do you think he would have had this turnaround without having gone through that experience?
It's hard to say. I don't know. I think all the experiences that he's had as a quarterback, have obviously had an impact on where he is today. So, that's hard to say. I don't know that, but I think, good and bad, every good and bad experience he's had is an experience, and it's something that you learn from.
I know that created a lot of questions for you that you had to answer, just about potential quarterback controversy and this and that, but looking back, that decision seems to have worked out probably as good as it could have, right?
Maybe I've made one good decision in my life, so, who knows?
Is there a particular area of his game, other than focus, the physical part of his game, that is better consistently now because of greater focus?
Well, no, the focus has to do mainly with your decision making. It's not the physical part of it. Mark Weiss can make every throw there is. He can run like a tailback. He can do it. The physical part was not an issue. Even in that game, it was more just the focus and the decision making at that time. And so, but he's done a tremendous job. He really has. And from that point on.
Is there one coach on staff who deserves credit for saying, let's stick with Mark Weiss, he's going to be our guy?
Well, there wasn't a single coach that ever said that we weren't going to, there was never any question, that starts with me, at the top. So there was never any doubt in anybody's minds. No, there was no doubt.
I assume that you were poking fun at yourself earlier. You said you made one good decision.
Right.
Yesterday,
I am poking fun at myself.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure I made one.
On Saturday, you called yourself out for
I've made a lot of stupid decisions.
I'm curious as to, you talk about players and people growing all the time and getting better. How have you you feel like you've grown as a coach at all in the last?
I hope so. I hope I'm learning something every day. Every day that I'm around these kids, I learn from them. And again, every experience that we have, I learn something from it. And hopefully I'll become a better coach.
Do you feel more comfortable being able to be facetious in that way, or even call yourself up for areas with an 8-1 team than maybe you would in previous years, or with this team than you would in previous years?
Well, I would say that I'm comfortable with being honest. And if I feel like I've made a mistake, I'll be the first one to admit it. I don't have a problem with that. I'm comfortable in my own skin, if that's what you mean. I know I'm not perfect, and I don't have any, but I'm confident in the job that I do. So I don't, but I don't have any issues with saying, that I made a mistake. That's not a problem for me.
How about as the CEO of the program? Have you grown in the last year in that way?
I hope so. We've, again, it's every day in life. I look at, I expect to learn something every day. I really do. When you're dealing with the amount of people that I deal with on a daily basis, and the amount of people that I am, in charge of, there's always something coming up, and there's a lot of experiences that I've never experienced, and I have to make some decisions. You do the best you can, and then you learn from the mistakes you make, or even the things that you do right. And hopefully you learn from other people's mistakes, and so that's something that for me has been very important throughout my life, is looking at people that have been successful. Why have they been successful? What can I take from that? And then also the ones that may not have been successful, and what can I take from that?
I read the SI story that referenced the positive dog less
Yeah.
than, I guess, last January, or when did you have?
That was this camp.
Okay. How did you come across that book, and had you read it, and what kind of made you think that that was?
Yeah, I took about, I guess it was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 books down to the beach. And because I'm always looking for a book or something to do with our seniors during camp. So I read, I don't think I read all 9. When I got to it, it was the one that hit me that I needed to use. So I think I read 5 or 6 of them, actually. And then I like that one, you know. It's by John Gordon, and he's, you know, I think there's probably a lot of sports teams that have used his books in the past, and so it was, you know, the Energy Bus was the one we used before, which was from him. So, yeah, I think he's got a lot of good stuff.
Along those lines, you mentioned grit being a predictor of success.
Right.
That's also from not a book, it's a speech, and it's from a study.
It's a study from the University of Pennsylvania.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And kind of the point of that saying that it's not so much talent as it is grit.
Right.
How can you encourage that in your team, and how do you look at that aspect when you're recruiting and try to find
Well,
those-
I think, you know, first of all, we you know, it's something that we talk about. That's something that we feel like this team has is grit. That doesn't mean we don't have talent, because you put those two together and you got something special, you know. So, but you know, through that study, I mean, they found that that's, you know, talent's not the key predictor of success. Grit is, and so our team has grit, and that's built through the off season. That's built through overcoming adversity, or maybe not overcoming adversity, but learning from the lesson of it. You know, it comes from the heartaches of failure, and it comes from the happiness of success, and all the different experiences you have. This team has grit. They do, and they are a special group, and so, you know, that's why I think we've been successful at this point.
Heading into their final home game here, along those same lines, what would you say about the senior class that's weathered every storm that's come their way and now has the chance to experience the success of this last month?
I couldn't be more happy for those kids. I mean, first of all, this, you know, your Quinshad Davises and the guys in that class were our first class when we walked in here, you know, and then you've got your Landon and Marquise and Smiley and who else? Jeff Schottner, Shaq came in that class.
Yeah.
So, you know, that were, I believe.
Marquise, Jeff, and Landon.
And Smiley.
Yeah.
4 guys that were, you know, that had redshirted and they're in their 5th year. So, I mean, you guys know what those guys have been through. I mean, you know, they've been through a lot, you know. So, every single one of those guys have stuck it out through the good and the bad, and because of it, you know, they're on a very close-knit football team that believes in each other, cares about each other, and has a lot of grit, and you know, is playing well.
Quinshot's been obviously had a really good career, and Ryan's been proven for a couple of years now. But your depth at receiver, it seems like it's really blossomed this year with Mac. You know, what is the biggest reason you think why you've got, you know, 4 guys that you really look like you can go to as opposed to just 2?
I really believe we got actually more than 4. We can't get to them, you know. I mean, because we could throw Austin Prohl out there in a heartbeat, you know, behind Switz, and he can make plays for us, you know. So we got more guys. I mean, and I think that talent's been there. It's just that you can only get so many of them on the field, you know. And when you take one off, I mean, you think, golly, what kind of play will he make it? But he's on the sideline, so. It's we've got depth. I think if you ask any of our DBs, they'll tell you that they're better today because of the quality of the receivers that they go against on a daily basis in one-on-ones and in 7-on-7. And so, I mean, iron sharpens iron. That makes them better. And so, I mean, you got a unique blend because you have some guys with length on the outside that can play above the rim. You got some guys with length that can really run. You got some guys that are shorter that got unbelievable quickness, and so they get a really good variety of receivers to compete against on a daily basis, which makes them better.
Is it consistency with some of the guys now that just with more experience?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, dependability, which is the most important ability that they have. And as soon as those coaches believe and understand that they're dependable, you have no problem making sure they're out there when there's a play to be made.
Is that partly too, is that a credit to Marquise? Is that them also making Marquise better? I mean, do you kind of look at one
Oh,
more
yeah,
than
it
the other?
all goes together. Then you gotta go a step further. You gotta talk about the offensive line who protects him, and the running back that picked up the 2 blitzes the other day when we threw 2 long touchdowns. I mean, it takes all 11. It takes all 11 to make it happen. But those guys, whether it's Marquise that's throwing to them in practice, I mean, from back in January, I mean, you're talking about building something then, just a feeling and knowing where a guy's going to be, and so those guys, they spend a lot of time now throwing, they really do. I mean, all summer and when no one's out there, I mean, so they know how many steps they're gonna be at when this ball's released, all those different little bitty things that, people don't really notice.
It seems like Marquise has become more proficient with throwing the deep ball this season.
Yeah, that display Saturday was as good as I've seen anywhere. I mean, if you looked at every one of those deep balls that he threw, I don't think anybody broke stride. I don't think anybody slowed down. I don't think anybody sped up. I mean, it was pretty phenomenal.
What's behind that success and the improvement there?
I would say reps and experience and I mean, because then he can also do what he did against Pitt and shake off a tackler that's grabbed him by the face mask that's 300 pounds and still get his head up and still make a 70-yard strike. I mean, he's, he feels good about where he's at as a quarterback, and he feels good about his receiving core. He feels good about his offensive line. And when you have that, you got all those things clicking. I mean, you can just play.
To get back to talent and Rip for a second, Miami's always thought to have a lot of talent, but since they made a change in the middle of the season, is that a team that's showing more grit now?
Yeah, I don't know the inside of their team, so I don't know that, but they definitely have a lot of talent and they're playing well, and I think they're gaining confidence. I think Larry's doing a good job with them. They're gaining confidence as they go, and so, and I think they have the quarterback back, I believe, and so they're probably feeling pretty good right now, and so, I've been on that side of it. I know what that feels like, as a coach. And I know how the players are, and so it's you can get it done that way.
Larry, you say you always worry about everything. You always worry about a lot of things.
Yeah.
What's kind of thought process and what goes into delegation when it comes to working with your staff and kind of more to the CEO aspect of this job? I mean,
Yeah, that's something I've got to improve on a daily basis, actually. I mean, because I kind of I like things done the way I like to do them, and I have to back off sometimes and let other people do their job and understand that other ways also work. So I'm learning every day in that aspect.
is it hard to trust, coaches with certain things you can do better? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. That's, it's not a matter of trust. It's that I'm very anal about the way I want things done.
Okay.
And then, and they laugh about it sometimes, but, I mean, from the way a word is written on the board, I might have the GA write it 4 different times because I don't like the way it looks, or I don't like the color, or I don't like that one letter is a little crooked, Yeah, I'm like that.
It's the second
My wife
time.
will tell you that.
This is the second time you played a team that got rid of its coach a few weeks prior to you playing them. How does that change preparation or even elevate preparation for you, the staff?
It really, not a lot. I mean, it's not like they're changing what they're doing. I mean, they haven't changed their schemes or anything like that. And so we're still preparing the same way.
What about tendencies in the game, or is there not enough there to
Well, you
see?
wouldn't, in 2 games, you wouldn't be able to build enough tendencies to really know. And they didn't change their coordinators.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Al was calling the plays at that time, so I don't know that we would have enough there in 2 weeks to know that.
Larry, Clemson wrapped up the Atlantic Division the other day, and if you keep on winning, you're going to wrap up the Coastal. How do you keep your guys in the here and now instead of kind of like peeking ahead a little bit?
Same way I do with y'all, We're all we're worried about is Miami this week, and that's it. That's all we think about. We don't think about polls. We don't think about all the other things that everybody wants to talk about. Again, we try to stay focused on our goal and understand what's going to get us there, and not be thinking about all the other obstacles that are out there to keep us from getting there.
Can you remember an offense you've been a part of that has been explosive as this was?
Well, not as explosive as the other day. We had 15 explosive plays, and I don't remember being on one where we had that many, actually. I've been on some explosive offenses, yes, that could make plays. I mean, some good ones, you know, but I don't remember a day like that. I mean, that you hit all those deep balls and guys made plays like that, even competitive plays.
What's your definition again of an explosive play? How do you guys define?
For us, it's more than 15 on a pass and more than 12 on a run.
Is there a ratio or a number that you shoot for with, you know, this is the number of, a ballpark of the number of plays, explosive plays you want to get per game or per season? Do you have that chart broken out, and what is that goal?
Yeah, we'd like to be somewhere around 10, you know. If we're around
10 total?
Yeah, in a game. And more importantly, if we're around that, we just, defensively, it's about the explosive play battle. So there's two. The turnover battles are important to me, and the explosive play battles. So I'm not a time of possession guy, as you well know, and all those, there's a lot of different factors out there, but those are two things that we talk about, I talk about every Sunday with the team. Did we win the turnover battle? Did we win the explosive play battle? I've never lost a game where we won both those. So, you know, not that I know of. I don't want to say something that maybe you guys will dig up and say I lied to y'all, so.
One of the things, last week, David Cutcliffe was talking about how those plays can emotionally defeat a team. Do you is that kind of one of the goals, and have you been able
explosive plays?
Yeah. Like
oh, you bet.
3 plays in a row can just like sack the defense right out. He mentioned that. Is that something you?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, you know, I mean, it's devastating for a player. I mean, especially if you're the one that it happens to a couple times. If you're that corner that gets beat, you can forget that first one. That second one gets you. You know, you got to be pretty dang strong. And as a defense, you know, your leadership has to be really good. I mean, you're giving up 10 explosive plays, and you know, you're not feeling real good about yourself.
Duke had almost 200 yards in the first half on first downs alone. Is that just one of those games, or is this a real issue that you're very concerned about?
You know, I don't think. You know, I know our defense did not meet the standard that they've set for the way we want to play this year. And they know that. We talked about it on Sunday. It's not something that we hide behind. I mean, they didn't. And they'll get it addressed, and they'll handle it. I feel totally comfortable about that.
Obviously, the number of explosive plays was unique or a standard or whatever, but to do it without turning the ball over, I mean, is that a ratio that you've ever to take that many shots deep, to take that many chances and not lose a...
That's a huge tribute to our quarterback. That really is. And that's what he's doing, he's taking care of the football. And you do that, I don't care what you do, the rest of it, you got a chance to win.
The last play before the half the other day, like Howard down there.
Yeah, and I was wrong, after the game. It was what, 18 or 19 seconds when we got the ball, not 40. I think I said 40 after the game. I apologize.
Was that just kind of like go deep and we're so hot we could hit this? Or
No. We had so there was about 19 seconds on the clock. We had 2 timeouts. That was what was important to me. So when Seth asked, I said, yeah, let's move it down the field. Let's see where we are, because we got 2 timeouts. You know, I said, so we hit the first pass, I believe, and then the second we threw incomplete, and now we had 8 seconds on the clock. 8 seconds on the clock. Hey, let's take a shot. You know, no harm, no foul. So you know, even if it wasn't a good ball and they picked it off, if they were really deep, I felt okay.
So is that more, that sounds like that's more about time and place on the field and clock?
Yeah,
More than
we'd have been backed up on our own end, you know, on the 5-yard line,
Right.
maybe wouldn't have done that, you know, but the big deal for me was we had 2 timeouts. So I wanted to see us hit something and see if we could move it. If we moved it, then I was going to go to timeout next. But the next play, we threw an incompletion, so I didn't need to.
But the way you guys have been hitting downfield, is that a factor where you say, we've got this working today, we should try it, or if you've missed on some of those?
Yeah, but even, you know, in that situation, you don't think you're going to get behind them, you know. not with 8 seconds on the clock, you know, but Bug made it happen. And that was another great throw. I mean, he never broke stride.
Anybody else?
All right, thanks.
y'all.